Hey everyone, it's Eric Kuczynski here, and in this video I want to share my story of how I help someone grow his online courses from $0 to $2 million in sales. And I have some notes here, so I'll be taking a look every now and then. So basically it all started 4 or 5 years ago when I first met this this personal trainer from Australia. So basically I partnered with someone from Australia, he was a personal trainer, in order to create our very first online course. And like I said, that person was a personal trainer. He was in the fitness industry, and we decided to create a course on how personal trainers can take their businesses online. And I knew how to run Facebook ads, I knew how to build funnels and just marketing stuff. And my partner, my client slash business partner, was a personal trainer, so he knew how to help personal trainers in business. Okay, so we started working together, like I said, around 4 or 5 years ago, and we decided to create this course, and we started recording lessons. We started creating funnels, all those pages, websites, our members area, and just recording and creating that course in general. And we spent close to 12 months just creating content, setting up pages, setting up email sequences, and all those technical things. And finally, on December, I think it was 2017, we launched our course. So it was our launch month, and our marketing model was we were driving traffic to a webinar funnel. So a very popular model. So basically driving traffic to a webinar page where people can register for your webinar, and then they go into your webinar room and they watch your webinar. And at the very beginning we had a live webinar. So basically our marketing funnel was Facebook ads at the very beginning, then webinar funnel, and then in that webinar they either buy from you or they don't buy from you. So again, we started driving traffic to the webinar funnel. And back then it was, like I said, I think 4 years ago, back then Facebook ads were very, very cheap. So we would get like $6 to $8 per lead. So very, very cheap leads and high quality as well, because we were targeting English speaking countries. So $6 to $8 leads from English speaking countries: Australia, USA, Canada, New Zealand, UK. And also we had an SLO offer that would appear to every single webinar registrant. So basically, what is that SLO offer? So basically it stands for self-liquidating offer. So immediately after registering for our webinar, you would see this one-time offer. I think it was a $57 offer. And the purpose of that offer was to cover our ad spend, or at least cover some percentage of our ad spend. And back then it was between 20 to 30% of our ad spend was covered by this SLO offer. So not only our cost per lead was $6 to $8, but in addition to that, 20 to 30% of it was covered by this SLO offer. Okay, but the mistake that we did is we got hundreds of webinar registrants, and we were trying to sell our course, and it was a high ticket offer directly from our webinar. And it used to work well a few years ago, but right now it doesn't really work anymore unless you have a big brand, you have big social media following, and people recognize you online, and basically people trust you. If you don't have a big social media following, if you don't have an established brand, it will be very difficult to sell directly from a webinar, especially if this is a high ticket offer, $1,500 and above. So this is the mistake that we did. We had very cheap webinar registrants. We had hundreds of people show up to our webinar, and we got no sales. Okay, and then my business partner decided that he's just going to reach out to every single person that registered for our webinar and just have a conversation with them. And it turned out that those people are actually very interested in our course. They just needed to speak to someone before making the commitment and purchasing the program. And we turned this quote-unquote failure into a $14,000 month. Okay, so this is like a quick tip for course creators. First of all, don't try to sell directly from a webinar or directly from a sales page, especially if you have a high ticket offer. And second tip is, sometimes with just a small tweak, you can turn quote unquote failure into a success. So we turned this quote unquote failed month into a $14,000 month, and then we did $18,000 the next month, and then over $20,000 the next month, and it started growing from there. Okay. So let me quickly take a look at my notes here. So this was our process. Okay, and like I said, it was 4 years ago. So it's not, things are slightly different nowadays. Some things still work well, some things are different, and it's just not exactly the same. But what I would do differently, or actually before I get into what I would do differently, my quick tip, and it's probably one of the biggest tips for course creators that I can give today, based on my experience, is try to get your first few sales as quickly as possible. So I've been talking to hundreds of course creators, and I can see this a mistake being made over and over again. So basically, the majority of course creators, they think that in order to start selling, they need to have a huge email list, or they think they need to have large social media following, tens of thousands of followers or tens of thousands of subscribers. And they also need to have their course fully recorded, they need to have a perfect product, and ideally they also need to have a website and a podcast. And it turns out that they spent 1-2 years without making a single sale. And the truth is, in order to make good money with your online course, in order to have a good business, you don't need as much as you think you do. You don't need to have tens of thousands of followers. You don't need to have tens of thousands of subscribers. Your course doesn't need to be fully finished. In fact, you don't even need to have a course before you start selling. And this concept is called pre-selling. So you can literally start selling a course before you even start recording content. Because if you can deliver the first module of your program 2 weeks after it launches or 3 weeks after it launches, and you are open, you are transparent with your audience, and they know it's a pre-selling phase and they will have to wait 2 weeks for it, that's 100% fine. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, you can start selling. You don't need to have all those things that you think you do in order to start selling. So once again, you don't need to have a huge social media following. You don't need to have a podcast. You don't need to have your course fully recorded. You don't need to have a huge email list. Okay? So, and I think the reason why so many course creators, I think they are just subconsciously afraid of selling, because it's just more comfortable. Like going out there and starting selling is just more comfortable, because you are open. You may get other people may criticize you, or things may go wrong. You may make some mistakes, and it's just more comfortable. Okay. And I think just course creators, they want to stay in this comfort zone where they just build pages, build funnels, record content, no one knows them, and it's just comfortable. But the truth is, unless you start selling, like if you don't have revenue, if you don't make sales, you don't really have a business. That's the truth. So knowing what I know today, what I would do differently if I was just getting started today, what I would do differently. So the number one thing is, I know many course creators, they either have email support in their program, or they have one-on-one calls in their program, or they have some sort of coaching element where it's just one-on-one, okay? And the problem with it is, it can work well if you have 10 students, 50 students, maybe even 100 students, okay? You can still handle your email inbox if you have, let's say, 100 students in your program. But the thing is, the more students you have, the less time you have to help them, okay? And it can quickly become very overwhelming. So what's another model that protects your time, but also gives students the help that they need? And that model is once per week or twice per week Q&A calls. So basically, instead of having email support where you just need to answer each person's question individually. You can have a once a week or twice per week Q&A call where all your students can jump in live and and ask whatever questions they have. And what's great about that model is, first of all, with that model, whether you have 1 student or 1,000 students, your time is protected. You just spend 1 hour per week or 2 hours per week answering questions. Second great thing about that model is that people can start learning from each other. So if you have email support and someone asks you a very good question and you deliver a very good solution to their problem, you just help one person, and it's great, but it's just one person. But if you have those Q&A calls and someone has a very specific big problem that's also popular among your students, and you deliver a very good solution to that problem, to that question, all those other people that are with you on those Q&A call can start learn from each other, and it becomes very, very powerful. Okay. So that's the first thing that I would do differently, and this is what I recommend to literally every single course creator who is just getting started, or maybe who already had, for course creators who are just getting started, and for course creators with businesses that are already established. Okay, switch from email support or one-on-one support to Q&A calls, and you can do them. You can do those calls once a week or twice per week. It's up to you. And the second thing is, what I would do differently. Don't try to build a perfect product from day one. So again, I've spoken to so many course creators, and they spend months trying to create their course, and very often they would spend 3 to 4 months recording their course, but then they would change their mind and they would re-record that content, and then spend another few months, and then another thing came up that they didn't like, and it's just a constant battle, and they never release their program. And the thing is, you will not get it perfect. So what you should do instead is create a course that's solid. Okay, create a program that you think looks good and will give people great results. But the only way to make it perfect, or as close to perfection as possible, is to listen to your students' feedback. So once again, you release a product that's still solid, that you still think is good and will help your students, but then you listen to questions that they ask you, and you listen to the problems that they have, and based on those questions, based on those problems, you improve your product. Okay, so let's say you release your program and you note down every single question that your students have over the next, let's say, 2 or 3 months. And if you get a question that's being asked very often, you know that you need to re-record one of the lessons, or maybe add a new lesson where you answer that question, so as to, in order to avoid, so that people will not have to ask that question ever again. Okay, so you can only create a great product if you listen to your students' feedback, which is questions and problems. Okay guys, so hopefully that video was helpful. So this was basically my short story of how I help someone go from 0 to $2 million in sales. And I only described our first program. We had 2 programs, so shortly after creating that first course, we created another course. Well, basically my partner created that course, and I was just responsible for marketing, mostly Facebook ads, stuff like that. And both of those courses together made close to or $2 million in sales in a short period of time. So if you have any questions, leave a comment below or send me a DM, and I will be happy to help you. Thanks.